Hi, I'm Steve Nash.
And I'm Giancarlo Caltabiano, and this will be our review of Nightfall. And
that's what happens when Nightfall comes. We have close
calling.
Encounters of the third kind.
Oh, look.
Oh, yes.
It's the producer's girlfriend.
It's the one from outer space. Fucking Space Cadet is calling.
I know, this game's about vampire and werewolves, but the Space Cadet just came in.
Start screaming like a banshee.
And we're not doing any other take. This is it, dude.
This is it.
This is it.
This is it. Suck.
Nightfall is a deck-building game in which you recruit vampires, ghouls, hunters, and werewolves and buy actions to inflict the most damage on other players. In the box, you'll find 228 order cards, 60 starting minions, 84 additional minions, and 84 actions, 60 wound cards with 3 different types, burn, bite, and bleed, 24 draft cards, and a rulebook.
Here's how to set up the game. Separate the wound, draft, and order cards into separate piles. Locate the 6 starting minions. These are the ones with their names written in yellow and have a cost of 0. Give 2 copies of each starting minion to each player so as to create the starting deck. Shuffle the wounds cards and place them face down. Now count off cards from the top deck equal to 10 times the number of players and turn them face up, leaving them on top of the wound deck. Shuffle all the draft cards and deal 4 face down to each player. Each player chooses 1 card, places it in front of him, and passes the remaining 3 to their left. Now he chooses a second card and again places it face down in front of him. The players now have created their private archives. These represent cards that only the player who has them can buy them. Players now pass the 2 remaining cards to their left. Again, players choose another card but now places it face down in the middle of the table, forming the commons. Flip them all up and replace the cards with the actual order cards. Return all other unused cards in the box. Now players shuffle their starting deck and draw 5 cards. You are now ready to play Nightfall.
Starting with the first player, each player will take turns that consist of 4 phases they must play through: combat, chain, claim, and cleanup. In the combat phase, if you have any minions in play, they must attack other players. You can divide minions to attack different players, and then you resolve each combat in order you choose. The defender, if he has any minions in play, can use them to block the attacker. The power of the attacking minion is the big red number on the upper right corner. The minion's health is shown by the red slashes on the top edge of the card. For each damage the defending minion gets, turn the card 90 degrees clockwise to show the current minion's health. Continue doing this until all damage has been resolved or the defending minion dies. When minions die, some are exiled while others are put into the player's discard, or have other effects written on the card. If damage goes through directly to the player, that player draws that many cards from the top of the wound deck and places it in their discard pile.
The next phase is Chain. This is the step where you bring minions into play and or perform actions. The first card of the chain can be played face up with no restriction. Then you can continue to play as many cards as you want, as long as you can link them. To link cards, the big moon on the card you want to put down must match the color of the small moons on the previous card played in the chain. Then each other player in a clockwise manner can add his card to the chain if he wants by linking them as well as using the same process. Once all players decide whether to link cards or not, the chain takes effect. Starting with the last card played, resolve the effect one by one. If you also link the card with the kicker being the same colored moon as the big moon on the previous card, you get that bonus effect as well. Effect cards played this way go into their owner's discard pile, and minions, after all the chain is resolved, come into play in front of their owner's zone. Then we move to the claim phase. Here you can acquire cards from the commons or your private archives. To do so, players must spend influence equal to the card's cost. You start each of your turns with 2 influence and increase this number from cards played, or by discarding cards in your hands for an influence each. You may buy as many cards in a turn as your influence allows. When you acquire a card, you must place it face up in your discard. And lastly, there's a cleanup phase in which you draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. The game ends when the last face-up wound card is given to a player. Mark any extra wounds the player would have taken, and then total up all of the player's wounds. The one with the least wins.
Alright, there's no real delicate way of saying this, so I'll just say it. Nightfall, with all its hype, was a real letdown. The mashup of having Lycans, vampires, and even hunters working on the same team didn't make much sense. Even less sense was why a character fighting on your side can be acquired from other players in the common role and then fight against you. How many Alton Hickman or even Radinsky is there anyways? This doesn't mean Nightfall doesn't have its merits. The draft system was a nice innovative touch in which players have a bit more control over the usual random cards picked from other deck building games. And the artwork was up there, complementing the genre real well. The linking system was a fresh addition to deck building game and really the highlight of the game, but it didn't make up for the lack of involvement I felt with the game. There was no attachments to the characters I had who were fighting for me. I'd only acquired cards based on linking potential and game effects. For all its intent in making a World of Darkness scenario, we felt that the biggest issue with the game was lack of theme. Some might argue that that's the type of game it is, and that's fine if that's what you like, but when I play a game, it's to enjoy the experience. Win or lose, I want it to involve me, to make me feel part of it, not to go about it in a sterile wash, rinse, repeat process. I felt like the game dragged on and we just wanted it to be done with, not caring who wins or loses. Nightfall was like those bad summer blockbuster movies. The only good thing about those was the preview and the eye candy. We gave it a 4.5 on 10.